All right, Carson, thank you so much for joining me. It's a privilege to interview you one-on-one for my own website instead of for the
Yeah,
magazine. Get a little bit more in depth instead of asking pre-approved questions, right?
yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me
Absolutely.
on.
Yeah, man, you were one of my favorite people to interview when I was at the magazine, so
Thank you.
glad you said yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's talk a little bit about your journey as an actor and which came first, your love of singing or your love of acting?
Well, I suppose if you really go all the way back, probably love of singing because I started doing it first. But I never, I would sing in the car. It's not like I was like trying to be a singer. I just discovered one day that I was halfway decent at it and enjoyed doing it. But when I moved to LA in 2013, I moved for acting. That was my goal, was to become an actor. And music kind of just was in the back seat for forever. And then I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but and then ended up signing a record deal, super random,
Mhm.
with Island Records, which kind of caused me to pull back a little from the acting, and then kind of got to have that little moment with music, and we toured. We opened up for Sabrina Carpenter,
Okay.
all over the U.S. and Canada, and then we got dropped from the label. So then music kind of took it reclaimed its spot in the back seat, and then acting kind of took over again.
Yeah, so you've kind of ebbed and flowed with both.
Mostly, I've just been a professional waiter who likes to sing and act. Over
Well,
the last 10
you're
years.
very good at both. I don't know how you were as a waiter, but I can tell
Yeah, I
you
was
from
not. I
experience.
was not as good at being a waiter. I can. Yeah,
So let's hope these other two careers work out then.
I hope so.
So when did you discover your love of acting and what made you leave? You grew up in Iowa, right?
Mhm.
What
You
made
know,
you move out to LA?
I would say that I discovered. This sounds so LA, but I feel like I discovered my love for acting before I realized that I had a love for acting. I think deep down I knew that I loved it. If I look back at you know the behavior that I was displaying as a kid, and all the I loved like watching Grease and like Moulin Rouge and just all like Rock of Ages. I loved that when it came out. Just musicals and acting, and I loved Walker Texas Ranger. Like I would probably to an unhealthy extent, bad parenting, mom and dad. I would sit in front of the TV and just watch movie show, movie show, movie show. I loved it, and I'd be running up the stairs like dressed, black pants, black shirt like Danny Zuko, and I'd slide down the banister, and so very imaginative, I think, but never understood the fact that you could actually try and make a career out of that.
Mhm.
It's just not an option, really, where I'm from. Um, it's not as it's just not as available to you. There's not a lot of acting classes going on, and I think that's changed now. But in Des Moines, there was not a lot of that going on. It was kind of like, sports and then school and college and then sales job or something like that.
Were you into sports in high school?
Yeah, I love sports. I played football and I wrestled. I ran some track as well, but wrestling was probably my main sport.
When you decided to move out to LA, what was the support like from your parents, especially becoming or coming from a small town?
Um, yeah, it was not received incredibly well. I don't think when I proposed that idea. Um, Definitely not by my dad. My mom didn't like it either, but she was a little more supportive, I think, or trying to be. And so was my dad. I mean, when I moved out here, my dad and I drove, just he and I together, drove across the country in my piece of crap. It was a 1998 or something Nissan Sentra with about a million miles on it, and barely made the trip. It ended up breaking down like several months after I had moved here. But that was a really cool experience driving across the country with my dad and just kind of like talking about stuff and he helped me move in and it was cool. But not overly thrilled with their son at 19, moving to live on my own in some apartment in North Hollywood. Um, so that was wild. I'll tell a quick story that my mom shared with me when she was out here a couple weeks ago seeing the baby. I had my first audition. It was for a commercial, I think, and it was somewhere on Santa Monica, you know, East Hollywood on Santa Monica, and I was not familiar with. They don't have no parking zones where I grew up. Okay, there's not no parking zones, and they certainly wouldn't tow your car if you parked in one. So I go into this audition. I didn't look at the signs. I saw there's a curb. I'll park on it, go inside, do the audition, came out, and I came out and my car's gone. And because literally I'd never even like imagined that somebody would tow a car away. So I see my car's gone. My first thing is, wow, I just moved to LA and somebody already stole my car. That was kind of where my head was. So I called my mom and I was like, "Hey, mom, don't be mad at me, but I think my car is stolen." And we went through the whole thing and realized, oh, it just was in a no parking zone, and you got towed, and you got to go give the garage $350. And
Welcome to LA.
yeah, welcome to LA. Yeah,
Starting 350 in the hole.
yeah, already 350 in the hole, out of about 500 in the bank. So that was a rough one.
So I guess you jumped into waitering and other odds and end jobs right away.
Yeah, my first job was I got a job working at Equinox, the gym in West Hollywood. I've worked everywhere. I feel like as an actor you do, because you get a job, you just keep going to auditions, because you prioritize, or at least I did. I was prioritizing my auditions over my other job because I didn't want to do those jobs forever.
Right.
And so you kind of do the job for as long as your manager lets you keep doing that until they fire you, and then go to the next place. So I went to Equinox, and then I was at the Counter Burger, which is a great burger spot on Miracle Mile. And then I was bussing tables there, and then I actually started working like smaller construction jobs for a contractor up in Santa Clarita, which is just like a little north of LA. Did that for a while. That was a cool job. And then I got a job. Where did I get a job? I got a job waiting tables at a restaurant in West Hollywood, and did that for like five. I was there for a long time because nighttime works well because you can go to auditions during the day. It just took me a while to figure that out.
And then you did a horror film called Bedeviled, right?
A horror film called Bedeviled. Yeah, all along these jobs, all these side jobs, I was booking small short films or Bedeviled, things like that. Couple commercials. I think I did a Coca-Cola commercial for Regal Cinemas, and did a couple Ross commercials, which were like awesome because that's when you can actually get a little bit of money from doing commercials like that.
Right.
I was blowing it all on dumb things, but at least I was making some money.
Yeah, it was your money, right? You were on your own.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Bedeviled, every young actor does a horror film for the
Yeah.
most part. Were you? I noticed that you got killed kind of off camera. Was that your death cut? Oh, you were like with the crazy clowns coming at you, and then they find you deceased. Did you actually film a death scene and it got cut?
No, I think we really just did you watch the scene?
I did. Yeah, I saw it. That's why I was like, oh, he got robbed of his first big slaughter.
Yeah, no, it's just I think what they shot was what what was the final product, because it's like I think I just screamed, it's like
Yeah.
and then it kind of goes to black, and then
But you got robbed. You need to do another horror film so you can at least get that checked off.
Yeah, I'd love to do another horror film. They're pretty fun to do, honestly.
Yeah.
It's super out there and it's fun. They're usually yeah, they're fun sets to be on.
And then you did a film called Run, correct?
Runt, yeah. So I did Bedeviled. So when I moved out here, this is going to take a minute. It's going to be a little long-winded.
You're good.
Um, so I moved out here, signed to a manager, did not have an agent, and was with them for probably the first 5 or so years that I lived out here. And when we signed my band, when we signed to Island Records, um, I I kept my managers, but they weren't thrilled that I or they kept me, I should say, I guess. But they weren't thrilled that I kind of was going off and doing other things because I was getting really close on some really big projects while they were representing me, and the music kind of took away from that momentum, and they weren't thrilled with it. But through signing to Island Records, CAA kind of came sniffing around, which is probably one of the top two biggest agencies in the world, maybe the biggest, and ended up signing with them across the board. So at one point when I was like 21, I thought all my stars had aligned because I was with one of the biggest management companies in town. I was signed on a major label for a record deal, and I had my agents were now CAA, just all these powerhouses. Um, and that went on for about a year and a half. Nothing really came of it. The label ended up dropping us. As soon as the label dropped us, CAA cut ties. And then once CAA cut ties, my manager was like, "Yeah, it's just sorry, kid, it's not going to work out." So I went from having like big manager, major label, biggest agency, everything looks great on paper, to having zero. And I don't know if you're familiar with record deals, but usually it's not a good deal for the artist, or at least for us, it was not. It was not a very lucrative situation. So I have no agent, no manager, no label, zero money. So I went back to the restaurant that I was working at before. They were nice enough to have me back. Um, and then I signed to my current manager, Carl Rumbaugh, who's been a friend of mine, a friend to me since I moved out here, really. And shortly after, booked Runt, which was such a cool experience. It was an indie film, but it was a cool, like, young teen-ish ensemble cast, and we had so much fun shooting that movie. We did it up in Sunland, which is just north of where I am now here in Burbank. We shot most of it at the high school there in Sunland over summer break, and it was like 117 degrees in the valley, just so hot. Yeah. But we were a bunch of guys, a bunch of young guys, and so we, on a movie, you're waiting for like 4 hours sometimes between your scenes. So we'd go and we'd play football on the football field, like literally tackle. I don't know how we didn't get reprimanded or somebody didn't stop. Eventually they did stop us because they were like, we were starting to come back with like, grass burns and, some nicks and dings and grass stains on our clothes. But we would be out there playing tackle football on the football field between takes, and no one thought twice about it. Now it's like, I'd be like, no, we shouldn't do this because, a lot of things can go. Somebody breaks a leg and you're finished. That production is halted.
And that wasn't even that long ago, really. It was only, what, 2019?
That was actually 2017.
Oh, 2017.
It didn't come out till like 2020. Because of the pandemic kind of slowed everything down. And of course, Cameron's passing in July of, that was tough. And, it was tough for, least of all tough on the movie, just tough for, everyone involved, obviously his family. And that was very tragic. but I mean, just want to take a sidebar to just kind of, you know, solidify his legacy as a very, very just passionate artist. Cameron was, and super talented actor, dancer, incredibly kind human being. Yeah, which only added to the positivity of that experience. But yeah, he was a great guy, great actor.
Now, did your confidence take a hit when that happened, when you were dropped from your both labels and your management, and that you had to go back to waiting tables, or did that
Yeah,
give you a bigger kick in the ass to say, hey, you know what? I came out here. Yeah, this sucks, but I'm going to keep going.
yeah, it was a major confidence hit. I remember like crying in my car with my now wife, then girlfriend, being like, "This is it," you know, like because my when my managers dropped me, one of them was like, you know, I wasn't old, I wasn't that old, I was like 22, um, but they were like, we have 19-year-old. You have 19-year-old versions of you coming to town now, and that was the first time I felt like
Yeah.
wow,
At
you are
22, you've already
yeah,
peaked.
you're too old. You're too old in this town at 22. You know, it's like shit. Um, but yeah, so I'm here in my car crying to my not wife. I'm it. This is it. I'm done. You know, I missed my window. I'm too old now. I truly believed that at 22, and I looked back at 22-year-olds now. I'm going to be 30 next month actually, and I'm like, you're a kid. Like you don't know anything because I didn't know anything. I thought I did, um, but yeah, major confidence and just hit to the ego. Um, Thought about moving home. Really glad I didn't. There's been a lot of times when I've thought about, I got to hang it up. It's not working out for me.
Yeah.
A lot. I can count on, a lot of times, but stuck it out because ultimately I did kind of come to the conclusion, like, no, that's one person's opinion, and I think I believe in myself. I think I can do this. Um, and it's funny. I would always, every time I was about to just be done, and may hopefully I won't get to that point ever again, but if I do, but every time I'd be, I mean, hours or days away from just throwing in the towel. Something would happen, maybe I wouldn't book something, but I'd do an audition, because I'd just be like, man, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to, like, am I wasting my whole, like, there's a lot of things I can do, or I could try to do. But every time I'd get an audition, and I'd get a callback, or I'd get a chemistry read, and that would kind of be like, well, maybe that came right now for a reason, and I didn't book it, but I got really close on some really cool things, and it's kind of it's like you keep putting $5 of gas in your car.
Yeah.
It doesn't fill you up, but like you keep putting a little more gas in to get you a little farther down the road.
Yeah. Hey, that's
And
very relatable for a lot of us in a lot of
yeah,
professions.
yeah,
And then you book days, which has been your longest running gig.
yeah. Coming up on well, I'm in my third year. It'll
Yeah.
be 3 years airing in August, but it'll be 3 years on contract in April.
And you jumped into daytime at a time where things were faster paced than some other times that other people had joined, and it was like there's not much rehearsal. It's just get in there and know your stuff.
We
how,
were rocking and rolling, yeah.
how daunting was that for you to come in and be thrown in like that?
It was daunting. I think, fortunately for me, I was naive enough to how difficult it was going to be that I wasn't scared going in. If I had known how difficult it was going to be, I would have been really scared going in.
Yeah.
Um, And that fear kind of started to creep up as I was, 1 weekend, 2 weekend, 3 weeks in, and it was a lot of material, and we were moving fast, and it was very weird because it's like at that time it was, if I have a 7 a.m. call time, I gotta get there at 4:45 to do a nose test. Then I go mask up. I isolate for 2 hours in my dressing room, and then I get a call saying you're clear, or you're not clear. You got to get out of here. And then you couldn't run lines with anyone really, um, except over Zoom. But then there's always like, what'd you say? Can you hear?
Yeah.
How that is, especially when the Wi-Fi is spotty at times, and that was challenging. On top of the fact that, like, right when I got there, like a month in, I was boom, you're possessed by the devil, and it's like that was probably the largest and the longest running storyline that I'll ever have on the show. Hopefully not, but it probably was, because that was a really big story. And so I remember one day I had 60, I think 62 or 67 pages just to myself of dialogue.
Oh, that's a lot.
And dude, I was like, I almost had like my brain exploded.
Not
Um,
a lot of help either, trying to, what would a person who was possessed feel like? I mean, there's not a lot of background information you can do.
no, I just kind of was like, I kind of just made I knew that I definitely wanted to do it because the story had been done before in the 90s. And then Deirdre was just the devil right before Johnny was. So I definitely wanted to make it a different kind of character than she had made it. So I kind of like, you're right, I didn't have a lot of time to, well, what's a possessed person act like? And okay, well, what's a possessed person act like on a soap opera? Like,
Right.
so I was like, I'm just gonna make him like super creepy, weird game show host. Like kind of charisma. He had the red suit,
Yeah.
um, and so that's what I was kind of trying to emulate um, in all those scenes. But yeah, man, that day it was like, whew. I mean, you basically an entire movie's worth of pages.
Yeah. In
Um,
one shot.
one character, which was wild.
Talk about being thrown into the fire, quite literally.
Thrown into the fire, and you know what? I'm thankful for it because not that it's easy, but like now everything else is like, okay, I can definitely do that. If I can do that, I can definitely do this. If I could do that when I didn't even hardly know what the hell I was doing, I can definitely do this now that I kind of have the hang of it. And.
And there was a lot of physicality to the role at that point too, wasn't there? Weren't you
Yeah.
like tied up to like a crypt or something at one point?
Yeah, that was after
You were unpossessed.
after I was possessed.
Yeah.
My sister became possessed and chained me in the DiMera crypt. Yeah,
As it happens.
everybody goes through something like that.
That's why I think you brought such realism to it. It was just all the experience you had going through it in your own personal life.
Yeah, I've never had more fun. Never had more fun than playing the devil on Days of Our Lives, no doubt.
And you've got a band of brothers on that show, and you guys form the Day Players, and so you're able to now use your passion for music with your
Mm-hmm.
buddies who are also acting with you to go around
Mm-hmm.
and tour. What's it been like touring with the Day Players?
I just was talking about I've never had more fun than playing the devil on on Days of Our Lives. I'll rephrase that and say I've never had more fun with a character than playing possessed Johnny on Days of Our Lives. Man, we just I immediately liked all those guys and really everyone. There's not really a bad apple in our cast or in our crew, or it's a great place to be at Days, and I love it and I'm thankful for it. But those guys, we got along, and we'd always be joking around or hanging out or having drinks after work, or at least with Eric and Brandon. I didn't know Wally that well because I hadn't worked with him, and we were still kind of isolating. So you kind of only saw who you were in scenes with. But I was doing a fan event in Nashville in February of 2022. I guess it was.
Yeah.
Must have been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
And Wally was there. It was kind of my first time getting to hang out and talk with and meet Wally. It was me and Wally, Scott and Missy Reeves, Cassie DePaiva. Um, I think that was it.
That was probably for Starstruck fan events, right? With
It
Paul.
was for Starstruck. Yeah, it was for Starstruck. Yeah. Um, and we had a lot of fun there, and I think Wally really had a lot of fun. I don't think he'd been out and played for a while, and he was great. And literally a week later, I was on my honeymoon, and I get a call. I was in Belize, and I got a call, and it's Wally Kurth because I had added him in my phone, obviously. And I was like, I don't know this guy. Like, what's he calling me for? If he's calling me, it's got to be for some. It's not to just say hello because we just met, you know.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Hey, Carson, how's it going? How do you want to?" So look, there's this band, and
That
you know,
impression is dead on Wally.
yeah, yeah. And he's like, I'm here with Brandon and Eric are in, and I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a lot of fun. Let's get together when you're back in town, and we'll meet at we'll go. And so we did, and we were like, great, let's do this. We didn't know what was gonna happen with it. I I had never, it's interesting to say now thinking about it. I had never like tried to do something out of the box before and had it succeed. Like any type of like any acting is definitely an out of the box profession, and so I guess I had, but like I had never like tried to do something. Every time I tried to do something, it would just, you know, um, and so I was like, cool, these guys seem to think that this can work, and I'm glad they asked me to do it, and I'll just go through the motions, go to the rehearsals, hang out, play the songs, learn the songs, and then then all of a sudden we're like, okay, we're gonna go on a tour, and I was like, we're really doing this? Like, we're actually gonna follow through? And okay, I hope we don't, I hope we don't end up losing, thousands of dollars paying to get ourselves to New York and, rent all the equipment. And so we went, and it turns out people wanted to come see us, and people are still wanting to come see us, which is great. It's just like it's a fun thing that we get to go do as guys, just buddies, to get away, get out of town for a weekend and go hang out, drink a few beers, play a few songs, and it's really things we would be doing anyway, we all love it so much, and it's just, we do it really for the fun of it. It's just a bonus that we get to have, crowds and interact with people, because that's what makes it magical, is being able to like see people out there having fun, because it makes you have fun, just a room full of people enjoying music, and just laughing and dancing, and drinking and eating, and
It's a great time.
best.
And
Yeah.
you're very well versed at interacting with the fans. You do a number of appearances a year, not just with day players, but
Yeah.
one-on-one stuff. What's been the most rewarding thing for you with the fans? And what was one of the nicest things? I know it's hard to pinpoint, but
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of, many of the fan events I do, it's rewarding because a lot of them are for charity, which is, at least part of the reason why you want to go and raise money and support those, because they're for some really good causes.
right.
Um, but yeah, my first fan event was in Rhode Island for a Starstruck, and I was new on the show. I think I had just aired, and Eric does a lot of fan events as well, and he had to drop out of that one for some reason, and was kind enough to suggest me to Paul and Keith, who run Starstruck. And so I went, and it was so cool. I'd never experienced anything like that. It's really, really cool to see people who love something that you're a part of, and get to meet the people who genuinely are like the reason that you even have a job. Like seriously, like that's like bottom line. Like they're the reason that you're even employed, and to get to meet them and say, hear them say, "Oh, we'd love to see your character do this," or "Oh, we love when Johnny did that, and oh, we want to see him with this love interest," and telling you you're doing a good job, or telling you, "Oh, maybe you could like do a better job."
Oh, yeah, there's sometimes that it's awkward, right?
Yeah, but that's okay, man. I love it, and it's like it's just to me same thing with the day players, and same thing throughout my entire life. For me, I love connecting with people and sharing experiences with people. That's probably why I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
Um, I just love it, and it feeds my soul. Truly, I love it, and I love hearing people's stories. There's so many great stories that people have. Um, Definitely about the show and experiences they've had over their life about the show, but just stories about their life and learning about other people and empathizing with them and sharing in return. It's just really, really cool. And I think if you're a performer and you don't care about meeting and connecting with your fans, then, not even from a career standpoint, you're just missing out on so much. You're missing out on so much.
Yeah, I will tell you, you are one of the most humble, kind, and you can tell that you really enjoy doing that. I've been at a couple of events with
Yeah.
you, and you can tell you really enjoy interacting, and you're so down to earth and so humble and so kind all the time that it makes it easy for the fans to want to come out and support you. And it's genuine. You're not on there putting a show. That's just who you are as a person.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I know that you're married to your wife
Yep.
Julana. You
Mhm.
mentioned her earlier.
Yep.
Your relationship kind of had an interesting start, right? You met when you were working in a gym, or you're going to a gym, and you were working at the gym, right?
No, no, I was going to the gym. Yeah, I was waiting tables at the time, but I was working out at Crunch on. It's the big Crunch. If you're familiar with West Hollywood or Hollywood, anyone who's watching this, it's the big Crunch in West Hollywood on the corner of Crescent Heights and Sunset Boulevard. So very LA streets. You hear about those streets, but yeah, I was going to that gym, and the person who signed me up, the called membership director. I'm not sure what the title is, but her name was Jackie. She's still a friend. Hey, Jackie. And she set me up with this trainer because you get like 5 free sessions when you join the gym because they hope that you pay for more. But
Exactly.
I never do. But
No shame in your game, Jackie, and no
yeah,
guilt on you, Carson, for not signing up.
yeah.
Solve
So
everything.
I was working out with this trainer, Layla, and I don't know how we got to talking about it. It just we got to talking about our personal lives, and she found out I was single, and she was like, "Oh, I have this client. I have this girl who just signed up here. She just moved here from Florida. She's actually living in Jackie's building, and you know, she's single too." And she showed me a picture of her, and I was like, "Oh, that girl's pretty cute." And she was like, "Well, it was very junior high. It was very high school. It was like, oh yeah, she's cute. Oh well, she thinks you're cute too." And like, that whole thing. And she was like, "Do you want me to ask her if she wants to go on a date with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And
That's
so
great.
yeah, so the next time I came to the gym, she was like, "Here's Julana's number. She wants to go on a date with you." And so I had her number. Never had. I don't think I even ever spoken to her in person. And so I throw her number in my phone, and I shot a text. It was one word. It just and a question mark. I just said sushi question mark, and I was like, I hope she knows who this is. It's
And like sushi.
and like sushi. Turns out she doesn't like sushi, but we did go to get sushi. She did know who I was. Said yes to the sushi. I found out later she doesn't like sushi at all. And the sushi place that we were trying to go to was full anyway, so we ended up going and getting like a salad across the street somewhere, which is gross. I'm not a big salad fan, but
But it's
you
very
know,
Hollywood actor.
very,
Jim, it fits in with your gym routine. I mean,
yeah, you can't live in LA without trying a couple kale salads and some green
uh,
juices. You just can't avoid it. I try my best, but sometimes it's unavoidable.
it's tough, right? So when you guys were dating, and I would, you guys were dating at the time when all the things started crashing down for you. What was her support like during that, and did that help you decide to say it out and stick it out there?
Yeah, I thought it was weird she was staying with me. I really did, because I was used to, the way just LA is a very superficial place. It's a very like, yeah, I'll scratch your back, but you got to scratch mine too. And what can I gain, and what can I, what is this worth to me? And I thought surely she only liked me because at the time I was in no, I was not waiting tables. I was in my boy band at the time.
Mm.
Um, and I was like, she's probably dating me because I'm doing a couple cool things right now, and or they sound cool, they sound cool at least, and blah blah blah. And then when they started kind of you know disappearing very quickly before my eyes, she stuck around, and that was like, well, what? Why are you still here? I mean, I'm glad you are. I love you. I'm
Yeah.
stoked about it. But yeah, she was like, we had some cool conversations, and I believe very much in her, and she believes very much in me, and we respect each other, and that's very, I mean, that's
Beautiful.
super
Very
important.
important for a young
Yeah,
couple.
yeah,
And then you guys got married right before you started airing on Days, right?
yeah. We did. I man, so we moved. So in 2020, we moved to Nashville in November of 2020 because we were like in the height of COVID here in LA, and I had just gotten back from Iowa. We actually went to Iowa back to live with my parents at the beginning of COVID, um, and I was totally like oblivious to these massive checks that everybody was getting, like $900 a week. People were getting
Oh,
for free.
yeah.
And so I was like, well, I have no job. I can't work. So I went back to Iowa. I'm working. I got a job at a metal polish factory. I'm making $7, $8 an hour, on an assembly line, putting, jamming caps onto metal polish bottles with a little machine, and making like a couple $100 a week, probably, maybe 600 every 2 weeks. And so I was in Iowa doing that. And then I was talking to my buddy, Tanner Stein, actually, who plays Joey. He's the new Joey on and I was talking to him, and I was like, man, I don't, how are you surviving out there? Because he was still in LA. He was like, well, I'm getting my money from the government. And I was like, what money? He was like, this money. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I went and I was like, okay, cool, okay. So was able to kind of get, some of those checks, but anyway, wasn't able to cut it financially out here at that point in time with what we were working with and what our rent costs, and you know we just couldn't afford it. And I didn't want to at that point. I felt too, if we're playing a poker game, pot committed. I was like, I'm already, I'm too far into this shtick. I can't turn around now. It's I'm gonna lose it all.
Yeah.
At least if I keep going, maybe, maybe I can find some way out the other side. So I didn't want to move back home because to me that was failing. I failed. I tried and it just didn't work. So I was like, well, maybe we could try Nashville. I know some people there. Maybe I can try and do some, music stuff. And so we moved to Nashville. Money is still super tight. And it was starting to get really strenuous on our relationship. And the only job, I swear, I looked all over that town for jobs, and it was just hard to find. And I ended up getting a job bussing tables at this place, great Italian place, really small mom and pop place in West Nashville called Coco's Italian Restaurant. And again, I'm making $8.25 an hour, which is just not enough to pay rent. It's just not. Um, and so it's like every month getting farther and farther into this hole, and really didn't know what. I mean, I was so the reason the what sparked this was you mentioned you brought up my marriage, and I had proposed to Julana the summer before, and I'm thinking, well, shit, I'm 27 years old. I've got a fiance, soon to be my wife. We want to have a family. I have nothing, you know. I mean, how am I going to how am I going to do this? Like, I really wanted to figure out how I could be, you know, a provider, because I had not been. I really was not providing at all. And my parents were like, well, you could move home and get a job at, you know, such and such and make, you know, 40 grand a year or whatever, you know, if I even got the job, which to me, I was like, man,
Yeah.
that is like 40 grand a year. Might as well have been a million, you know, like that was like, you know, that sounded amazing. And, you know, to me, like, you know, I like $5,000 could have been $1 million at that. That could have changed. That could have like at least paid off some of my. Anyway, so I'm down to about my last $300. There's been a lot of times when I've been down to about $300. You know,
Sounds like a theme.
yeah. And lo and behold, I get a call from my agent. Hey, there's this audition for days. You want to read it? Sure, great, I'd love to. Read it, didn't hear anything for like 2 weeks, so I assumed, well, you know, that was probably the last audition I'll ever do, because I'm done. You know, I can't make it happen anymore. I've squeezed as much life as I could out of this, you know, situation. Um, I get a call. Hey, you got a call back. Congrats. Awesome. Um, Casting director Marnie wants to Zoom with you the day before to talk with you about it. Awesome. Get on Zoom with her the day before. She proceeds to say, you know, that was not a good audition that you sent in. Don't, you know, I wouldn't have given you a call back. Somebody else mentioned your name and wanted to see you again, so you're lucky. Don't mess this up tomorrow. And
Pressure.
yeah, because I've been in for days 10 times before in the past. I've screen tested for a couple different roles in the past, and you know, some callbacks or whatever. So they, you know, somebody there was familiar with me, and so I do the audition. I also have COVID at this point in time. Julana is back here in LA working a job, so I'm by myself at our house in Nashville, snowed in, sick as a dog with COVID. I'm sitting on this laptop that I'm staring at now, reading a scene with Marnie, the casting director, and then some of the producers were watching, you know, not on screen, and did it. Marnie was like, "Great job, awesome." Again, didn't hear anything for like 2-3 weeks. Thought again, shit, you know,
Yeah.
so close again, but didn't quite get it. And then my agent calls and says, "Hey, good news, bad news." I was like, "Great, what are they?" And he said, "Good news is they want to change your character from a 6-month guest star to a 1-year contract." I said, "That is good news." He said, "The bad news is, since they want to do a contract, and this is Wednesday. Since they want to do a contract, they need you to come in for a screen test to really make sure." They have a few guys they're looking at. Can you get to the studio on Friday? And I didn't tell my agents that I had moved to Nashville, because I didn't want them to think, you know, I didn't want them to stop submitting me and think that I was like, you know, leaving.
And you'd been burned once before, so
Yeah, so I didn't want to spook them. You know what I mean? So I was like, "Great, sounds awesome. Here's the problem. I live in Nashville and I can't afford a plane ticket. So we worked something out, and Days actually ended up, they were kind enough to fly me out and put me up at a hotel near the studio, and did the screen test on a Friday morning. Flew back to Nashville. Got a call Monday morning from Marnie saying, "Hey, you know, still act surprised when your agents and managers call you, but I wanted to let you know that you booked the show. Congrats." And I just, I'm crying.
Yeah.
I'm in the room. I'm in the bedroom, and Julana's in there, and I'm just crying, talking to Marnie. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much. I won't let you down." All this stuff. And she was like, "Great. Still act surprised." So agents, managers, spoke to them, called my parents, um, and then they were like, "Cool. So you start in 9 days. Um, we'll see you out here." So in 9 days, we had to pack up our entire house, break our lease, which was, unfortunate, and drive from Nashville back to LA.
That's a
It
lot.
was a lot. It was a lot. It was very quick. I feel like things tend to happen fast in this industry. It's
Yeah.
very. Um,
Hey, you got another car ride with a loved one though, so that was a benefit.
yeah, I actually called. We called some friends of ours. I called a buddy of mine, Justin Nunes, who's a dentist in. I want to say Philadelphia, but it's not. He's in Washington D.C. I don't know. His sister lives in Philadelphia. Anyway, totally irrelevant. But I called my buddy Justin, and he came to Nashville, met me, and we drove to L.A. together. He and I shared a car, and I think my wife and one of her friends drove. So I pitched it to him as, "This is gonna be fun, man. We'll stop, we'll see some sights, but every day I'd get a new email saying, we're moving up your start date. We're moving up your start date." So it turned out I had like 4 days from leaving to. So I was like, we just drove straight there.
Yeah.
It was not, it wasn't an enjoyable road trip, and but he was a good sport.
Well, your road trip with your dad was enjoyable the first time, so you
It
win some,
was.
lose some, right?
It was. Yeah.
And you were going for a goal which has clearly worked out for you.
Oh, dude, it's been truly has been the greatest. Well, I've gotten married and had a kid in this time span too. So, but behind those two things, it has been the greatest experience and opportunity of my life, and will always be, because it's always going to be the thing that really kept me in the game, and changed my whole life. I'll be forever grateful. Whatever happens. I hope they keep having me around, but if not, even still, man, just saved my life a little bit. Days did, yeah.
And yeah,
Super happy to be here.
mentioned married, and now you just had a daughter the week before Christmas. What has it been like for you guys to start the family? You're still young, and great time to start having kids, right? You're got the energy
Yeah,
to keep up with her. Well,
yeah,
she's not too much now, right? She's only a month old.
huh?
She's not running marathons, so you're not just a
No,
kid.
she's mostly she's eating, sleeping, pooping, crying.
Not
That's
in
really
that order, right?
yeah, in no particular order.
It changes daily.
Yeah, um, but she's just the sweetest thing, and not because of anything she does, just because she's ours. It's like, man, just it's like, you just, that you didn't even know, you never even knew how how much love you could just, like, you know it's insane. I can't even articulate the feeling, because it's so, magical and euphoric. It just,
Do
at
you
the same time, it's like you're scared, because it's like, man, I just gotta, now I'm responsible for you forever. 18 years, yeah, but really forever. Like, I'm gonna have to be the guy that, like, always makes sure you're okay.
does
So
it make you, now that you have a child, does it make you want to move back to Nashville and try to commute? I know Missy was doing that for a while. Justin and Melissa Gaston do that
Mhm.
while she's on YNR. Is that something?
Yeah, Greg Vaughn does that as well. He lives in Dallas. Um, you know, those guys have been on a lot longer than me. I think they probably have a little more rope with the shows than I do. I don't think I could probably swing that.
Yeah,
I don't know if I
that's
could. I don't
cost.
know. Huh?
It's costly. It's not
Well,
cheap.
it's costly. First of all, it's very costly, and also I don't want to do anything to jeopardize my. I don't want to make it. I don't want to make it inconvenient for the show to have me around. I want to be very available.
That
Yeah,
makes sense. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So what are you looking forward to now for the future? I mean, your father, you've got a starring role on a long running television show. Uh,
Mhm.
Happily married. Like what's next? Day players.
Man,
All of that.
the day players, we're really excited about the day players this year. We have a few dates announced. Um, you're in New York or New Jersey?
I'm near New Brunswick, where I met you the first
Cool.
time. So
Have you already got a ticket for the New Brunswick show?
not yet. No.
Okay, don't. We'll throw you on the list
Okay.
because we'd love to have you out there.
Sounds good. Yeah. Maybe we can
Um,
grab a bourbon this time.
what's that?
Maybe we can grab a bourbon this time.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there'll be bourbon flowing. I'm sure
Yeah,
of
I'm
it.
sure.
Um,
What's your poison?
um, it seems like when we're on the road, when I'm with the day players, it's bourbon.
Which
That
kind?
seems to be whatever the venue wants to give us for free. Usually nothing too nice. Um, but in
Oh,
my own time, I drink. I do like bourbon. I'll drink a scotch every once in a while, but I like a good tequila. Um, it just feels. I mean, none of it's good for you, but it feels a little cleaner. And
yeah,
that's if I'm drinking liquor. But it's for me, it's pretty hard to beat a cold beer.
yeah.
It's pretty hard to beat. Um, but the day players, we have a lot of fun stuff coming up this year. And really, I just it's a new year, and really the only thing I truly feel so blessed. I have everything that right now at this moment in my life, I kind of have everything I ever dreamed of having as a 20-year-old. So now I'm just trying to figure out what I want in the next 10 years. First and foremost, a healthy marriage and a healthy child, but I just want to ultimately I just want to be as positive and um, spread as much good as I can. I think there's a lot of negative stuff out in the world, and I just want to be as happy as I can, and hopefully make sure that anyone who I come into contact with is always is leaves feeling good.
Yeah.
That's kind of my general goal for the year and for hopefully ever.
You really, I know I've used the word genuine so many times, but like this is not just a put upon act for an interview. This is like who you are at your core. And
Yeah, yeah,
really cool to see someone who is, in on a front burner show, like doing a lot of appearances and getting to meet so many people. I know you're going to be in Florida in May. I'll put a little thing in the
yeah.
description.
Oh, yeah. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and with Coastal Entertainment for your
Yeah, Linda.
show. You got about
Mm.
what, six lined up so far? You're doing two in a
Show. Oh gosh, we have Florida. We've got the New Brunswick show, which is going to be backed on a show that we're doing in upstate New York the day before. And then what else? We have the Chicago and Detroit. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows. Yeah, yeah, spot on.
so far.
I look at it as weekends. I look. We have 3 weekends right now.
There you go.
Um, but we are going to be adding um, Connecticut, I think Philly, Long Island, and somewhere else, maybe Pennsylvania.
That's a
So
lot.
we're gonna do like we did our very first tour. We did like 4 cities, and so we're gonna do that again up in the Northeast. We probably won't do New Brunswick because we're already doing that. Um, but there's gonna be a tour where we do Boston, Philly, Long Island, and Connecticut.
That's awesome.
Those, and then we want to do the Carolinas, and we want to do maybe Sacramento and Tacoma again.
And then
It'll be a busy year.
right?
What's that?
You usually play the Day of Days weekend, right? In
Yeah, we usually play the day. We'll definitely play the Day of Days weekend in LA. That'll happen, and I would love to get some shows going in the. I know Chicago and Detroit are kind of the Midwest, but I'd love to go through Kansas City and Omaha and St. Louis or something, just because that's kind of where I'm from, and
yeah.
it'd be nice to have an excuse to get back somewhere at least close to home.
Well, Carson, stick around for a quick second after we jump off,
Yeah.
but I do want to thank you so much for all this time. I'm just really honored that I got a chance to have a nice, real sit-down interview with
Absolutely.
you. Not
Yeah, likewise.
not quick questions that everybody gets asked, right?
Yeah, yeah. What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? If you were an animal, what would you be?
Oh, sadly, I asked those questions, so I feel attacked yet loved at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, buddy. It was a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you.